But when I played baseball, you'd have multiple different hitting coaches. And every hitting coach has a different approach. I'm not saying their approaches are right or wrong, but I can listen to each hitting coach and pull out one little piece that might fit into my routine or the way that I hit.
Strong. What's up, guys? David Moss Jr. from the DMJR podcast, and today I have former Major League Baseball player, Olympian, and one of my best friends, Matt LaPorta. Matt, welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited about this. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so you've got me a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I'm really energetic about it.
I'm stoked too, man. So we've been talking about doing this for years. We've been talking about just getting together and talking about certain things in our lives that we feel can help and bring value to other people. Right now, the crazy thing is, between me and Matt, and our wives, we have 8 kids, and we've done family trips together, and we went on vacations together, and we've went skiing together. We've done a lot together. We went to theme parks together. But this is a crazy week because all 8 of our kids just started back in school.
Yeah, it definitely throws a curveball into the mix of everything, right? You have your summer routines, which kind of are thrown off because kids sleep a little longer, stay up a little later. At least ours ended up staying up a little later. But with the first week of school, it's kind of get back to the grind and get more into a rhythm and a routine for us.
And our kids, even though they're younger, our school starts earlier. Like my morning routine typically is I get up at 4:45, I cold plunge, and my entire household stays asleep. I get so much done in the morning before 8 o'clock, and my family usually isn't even up because they were homeschooling for the past 2 years. Now we're going back to school, and now it's flipped. My wife is getting up earlier than me to get started, and she's also working as a teacher's assistant at the school because she wanted to give back to the school, which is crazy for her. She hasn't worked in 12 years other than taking care of our family and me. But it's been really crazy to see how our routines have flip-flopped, and now the morning routines have really changed for me. Have they changed for you?
Yeah, they definitely have changed for us. We typically, for us, my wife usually gets up a little earlier than I do. My wife's she's a beast. She's probably up about 5:15, and I'm probably closer to that 5:45 mark. But for me, it's just getting up early enough to kind of get in the right frame of mind to go and help the kids get ready for school, get breakfast, get lunches. So again, getting up about 5:45 and having some of my own little quiet time to just really reset my mind and get ready to take on the day.
Absolutely. So you're a father of 4 and you're super active. You have, as long as I've known you, you're always moving and you're always grooving and you're always doing something new. I think one of the things I always have admired, loved, and respected about you is you don't stop. I don't think you ever reach that level where you're like, I've made it, I've arrived, and I'm just going to settle. You're always moving to that next goalpost and moving to that next level. So for you personally, as a dad of 4 with school starting back, what's your morning routine look like that you feel shapes the rest of your day?
Yeah, I think the most important thing in my life is try to find time, quiet time in the morning, right? And that's, some people call it meditation, some people call it praying. I call it quiet time. Right, and it's just that for me, it's that time with me and Jesus, and it just helps sets my day, and I think it helps sets us up for success. And really, it's just a time for me to reflect on the previous day, reflect on things that I'm grateful for, moving forward, and it really helps put me in the right frame of mind.
Absolutely, man. Do you do any morning walks? Do you ever get outside and go for walks, or do you find a place in your house where you get some quiet time?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah?
I mean, I do a little bit of both. But I would say primarily I actually just kind of get in my closet and just shut the door, and it's just peaceful in there, and it's dead silent, and there's no distractions, and it's just a time that, again, I can just sit and reflect and calm our minds down, right? And just get ready for the day and whatever the day is going to bring.
Absolutely. I think I read a book once, or maybe even saw a movie called War Room, and it was talking about finding that quiet place, and you're a believer, so find that quiet place where you can really listen to God's voice and hear the direction that He's calling you for that day or that moment. Because we're all facing something, right? No matter how successful people are or if they feel like they're super down on their luck, we're all facing a challenge, and it's important, I think you would agree, for us to have that connection, that relationship, and that constant conversation with God, with Jesus, to help guide us in our day.
No, definitely. I think that's, again, a big part of our routine, our life. I mean, going back to routine, like one of the things that we, made the kids do every morning is, read their devotional, right? Just kind of start to get them in the right frame of mind, how to take on the day, right? And so for some people, it may be the Bible, some people, it may be something else, but getting the kids in the right frame of mind to go take on the day, because as we all know, the world is a challenging place, right? There are people out there that they've been hurt, and so they tend to hurt other people. And I think that if we can set our kids up for success to handle some of those stresses that go on in their life, I think that's a big help in their life.
You couldn't be more right. And I would say this, like, no matter how good your school is, no matter how centered your school is, kids come from families, and we can't control what those kids are going through at home.
Yeah.
One thing I realized in every school that I ever went to, and I went to a lot of different schools growing up. We moved a lot. I went to 3 different high schools, not because I was a bad kid, but because we moved a lot.
You sure it wasn't because you're a bad kid?
I was a good kid. I might have been a bad kid, but I was a good kid too. I don't know if any of my teachers are watching. Please comment and let Matt know I wasn't a terrible kid or student.
Oh, shoot.
No, but we moved around a lot, so I had to make friends quick. I had to learn how to make friends fast. I had to learn how to blend in and become cool or part of these groups at all these different schools. And I never went to a private school. I always went to public schools. But I realized that no matter where I was, no matter what city, no matter what town, no matter where, there was always kids going through something at home. And what they had going on at home, they would bring to school. And for me, having 4 kids, I'm sure you can relate. It's one of my biggest fears is not being able to control what our kids are surrounded by and the conversations that their friends are having with them. Recently, I shared my testimony, and I shared it on YouTube, and I shared it on this platform. And it was scary. It was scary to share some of the things that I had experienced and witnessed at a young age, at 14 years old. And I'm sure you might have some stories too. But I have a 12-year-old daughter, and you do too. It's like 12 years old. That's 2 years away from some experiences I pray that my daughter never has to experience. And I pray that no kids ever have to experience. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But how do we, as dads, not protect our kids, but equip our kids for those tough conversations? Puppy. Yeah. Everyone loves little puppies, right? Yeah. So especially little puppies. But how do we equip our kids to deal with challenging conversations that are going to eventually come up?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we share with our kids is that you're going to hear things that mom and dad may not agree with, and you may I can't tell them whether or not they agree with it yet or not, but they're going to hear things that mom and dad don't agree with. And that's okay, right? They're going to have to disseminate that information on their own. They're going to have to go through that process on their own. We're equipping them with, what we believe is truth, and to come alongside people and to care and love people, right? Like, I think there's a difference in a kid being bullied and a kid being hurt and causing pain for somebody else because they're hurt. And so we try to, I think, teach our kids to recognize that so that they can become a friend to that person, so that they can maybe walk alongside that person. It doesn't always work that way, but it's just something that we work on as a family, and just trying to be kind and generous to everybody, because we just don't know. I mean, I got to do better at it too, You
do a great job of it. So, quick backstory. I met Matt at school, the school that both of our kids go to now. I remember seeing you, and I'm like, man, that guy's got a great head of hair. That's all I'm, pardon me, I know a lot of people watching this are going to think I'm probably a loser, but I never followed sports. My dad did. Whole, most of my family, most guys do, but I never really followed sports. So I was attracted to you based off of how you treated me as a new guy at this school. And I remember you shook my hand, and you were dressed nice, and I think you were going to work that day. And you treated me like somebody, like we were friends for a long time and we had just met. I don't even think our wives knew each other at the time. Did they?
No, I don't think they did.
Not to that point.
I think they, maybe Stacy through social media saw Dara or something, but I don't think they knew each other. But
not like this. And no. I mean, immediately, not in a weird way, but was attracted to you by your personality, how you treated me as a random new person in this world.
Yeah.
And hopefully, there's some commonality there. But we just hit it off, man. Yeah. We hit it off, and I would agree. You're a friend to all. And even when people, because I've been in conversations where sometimes people are going through some pain and they're going through some hurt, you're very easy to talk to, but also you're a good listener and you're somebody who gives good advice. So I can only imagine being a dad and treating your kids with that same, obviously, level of respect, but more importantly, you communicate with them not just through your words, but also through your actions.
Yeah.
And I think our kids really learn more from our actions than they do our words.
No doubt. No doubt. And I think communication is key because, as you know, we're not perfect. And I mean, I think we talk about, in the morning, we talk about our morning routine and, our kids get up at 6:30. Well, if one of them's late and it's 6:45, like, Dad could get a little testy. I could get a little upset and,
I can relate.
Raise my voice. And it goes back to that communication. Just because I raised my voice, I might have yelled at him. I might have been upset and frustrated in that moment because it's chaos when you got 4 kids, you're packing lunches, get the ice, get your water bottles, do all of that stuff. You can lose. Sometimes your emotions get the best of you. But to your point of communication, I think going back to the child, going back to the kid, and just tell them how much. Hey, man, I messed up. I still love you, and letting them know that, like, yeah, and my kids know that Dad just sometimes raises his voice, but he still loves me. He still cares about me. So we try to reinforce that, every day, even again, because I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, and so I think communication with your kids and treating your kids, like many adults, right? Like, communicate with them.
Well, they are. And I don't want to interrupt, but
I
want to throw a point out there that, so I recently just left a career of 20 years in the car business full time to pursue this and to pursue trying to spread some good news and some messages to the world that might help them. And I appreciate having conversations with people like you because we can resonate on a lot of the same messages. But when I was leading adults, when I was leading teams, when I was leading people of all different walks of life, it comes back to the same thing. It doesn't matter if it's my 4-year-old or if it's a 65-year-old. People need to be communicated with. People need to know that you got their back. People need to know that you got their best interests at heart. And sometimes you're going to need to raise your voice. Sometimes you're going to need to correct them. Sometimes they're going to hear things that are contradictory to the process of living a good life or being successful or whatever that may look like. But having that communication with them, I don't think it ever stops. It never stops.
Yeah, I mean, again, communication is key. Even the tough conversations that you have with your spouse or loved one or your child, like, it's key, right? We try to make sure our kids communicate with us. Like, hey, how did mom or dad make you feel right there? Like, tell us how that made you feel. Well, it made me feel this way. And I think it's helpful for us, right? We can reflect on, all right, where do we need to get better as parents, right? And so it's this two-way street where, we're really both growing at the same time.
It's awesome.
It's their first time being a kid. It's our first time being a parent.
Right.
Right. And so we have to learn from each other, I think.
It's so true. And not only that, but like every day is a new experience.
Yeah.
Like what you went through yesterday, today could be completely different. Conversations are going to be completely different. Emotions are going to be completely different.
Yeah.
Where we're at mentally can be completely different. And I think what's super powerful though is, like you said, you and your wife communicate about that. You get in your own private space and talk, how can we do better? How can we parent better? How can we be better examples to our kids? And me and my wife do the same thing. And it's a challenge sometimes.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're at least doing it, because I think we can both agree there's a lot of families out there that don't talk enough. Parents and husbands and wives and spouses and families that just don't talk enough. They don't talk through the real emotions. They don't talk through how they can do better or be better for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. There's so much power in humility and letting yourself know, looking in the mirror and saying, I don't have this all figured out. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. And guess what? That's okay. Because every single person who's ever walked this planet, except for one, and every single person who's ever going to walk this planet has made mistakes.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think we all battle the mistakes that we make, right? And sometimes I think we also beat ourselves up too much for the mistakes that we make, right? And knowing that was the one thing in baseball that we had to learn, right? Like, you make a mistake, you punch out, you make an error, you have to move on. You have to have a short memory and move on, right? Like, obviously remember why or how you made the mistake and try not to do it again. But as far as it beating you up and bringing you down, you have to learn to move on from that. One of the things, kind of going back to school starting, routines, and communication, that now that school is back in session for the kids, one of the things that we like to do that helps deepen our communication level with the kids is on Tuesdays typically. So with 4 kids, it's hard to get one-on-one time with them, like you know.
Oh, yeah.
So what we try to do, and we've done this for the last few years now, is on Tuesday nights, we take one kid out we call it a date night. And we go out to dinner wherever they want to go, and then we go do whatever they want to go. Sometimes they'll go to Chuck E. Cheese. Another time they'll go to Main Event. Another time we'll go do an escape room. But it's really good for, the parents to get a one-on-one, especially if you got multiple kids like that, right?
For sure.
Like, get that one-on-one time. And it doesn't have to be long, right? It's 2 hours in the evening. So we try to go out by 6, get home by 8, get them in bed. But that's part of that back to school routine that we've missed. And the other part of it is, we try not to lose sight of is, my wife and I, our relationship, our marriage. We can get going so fast throughout the days, just like you, just like everybody else, because everybody's got bills to pay. Everybody's got work to do. Everybody's got family. So we can get going so fast. Sometimes we forget about the relationship with you and your spouse. And so Dara and I, we try to really, once a week, go out and have our one-on-one time. And it varies, right? It could be in the morning, it could be in the evening, it could be Friday, it could be Saturday or Sunday, something like that. But we try to make that happen so that we can communicate. And that's how we grow. And how do we grow and teach our children better? What do we need to work on in our marriage? But I think that gets back to that whole starting school and getting in a good routine again.
And that's the crazy thing, coming off of summer where your time is not unlimited, but it's a little bit easier to be flexible. It's easier to sleep in and still get that one-on-one time.
Yeah.
Now we have to be super mindful. We have to be real intentional on our time with everyone who's important to us. And like you just said, spending that time and making sure you're intentional about setting a date with your spouse, super important. Because, man, there's definitely been times in my life where I've been so busy chasing all these different dreams and chasing all these different things that I start thinking, wow, it's been 3 months since I went on a date with my wife, who's my best friend, my rock, the person who I care about the most. And sometimes it's the people we care about the most that we neglect the most because we take them for granted and we think they'll be there.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen it and I've seen it. So many relationships come to an end because that person on the other end of neglect feels it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, sometimes we don't feel that we're giving it. So it's really cool and powerful that you think about that already, and you're intentional about that. And it shows in your marriage. It's exciting. I love spending time with you guys. Me and Stacy love spending time with you guys. You're some of our best friends in the world. And it's not just because of one reason or the other. It's truly because our conversations are so in line.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's important. I think it's important, the feeling's mutual for you guys, right? Like, I think it's important that we have couple friends that we can lean on when things are difficult. I mean, life sucks, dude, at times. There's no doubt. Life is tough. Life will beat you up, and you have to have a support team around you. You have to have community around you to help get through those challenging times because we're all going to face it. There's not one person that's not going to face challenging times. And if they say they haven't, they're lying.
Yeah.
Life is tough, man, and we'll get into different episodes later about some of those challenges that we've faced. But I think as we kind of get to the end here, is there any other things in the routine for your kids and you in the morning that you like to do?
So our morning routines, it's the first full week of school, so we're learning our new morning routines. And what's crazy is my 3-year-old Wyatt started at school, and most 3-year-olds probably aren't getting up at 5:45 to get ready to go to school. So his morning routine has totally changed, and he's a mama's boy and he's a daddy's boy, and it changes like the wind. It's constantly like, I want mom, no, I want dad, and there's no middle ground there. Yeah. So we're doing a good job playing all the parts of the field and making sure our kids are loved and our kids are ready for school. But the 3 of our oldest girls, they're all super active in sports and in cheer and in dance, and they're just active as all get out. So our routines, we're still adjusting. We're still trying to figure out our best routines. Yesterday And this last week, me and my wife were able to really balance things out because she's also really active and now having to get up super early to get ready to go to work and get all these kids to school and then getting home late. She's like, when am I going to have time to work out? So now I've taken on more of a role of actually cooking dinner at night, helping make sure that the kitchen's clean, doing laundry. I haven't done laundry since I was 18 years old. Like,
I don't know.
Maybe I was 18 years old. I learned how to do laundry because I moved out, and I was like, oh my God, like, Mom, you are a superhero. Like, thank you for everything you've ever done. And then I found this beautiful invention in business called the dry cleaners. So literally, I dry cleaned everything, so I didn't have to do laundry. And then I got married, and my wife started doing laundry and was awesome. But learning how to do that so that she has time when she gets home from school and she's exhausted to get her exercise in and to take care of herself.
Yeah.
So that's something that our morning routines have totally changed and shifted, but our nighttime routines kind of set up our morning routines.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Your nighttime routine prepares you for the next day. It's not the next morning that prepares you, it's your night routine. Yeah, like, I mean, just talking about night routine, one of the things that we do is we try to make their lunch. You know, we make their lunch every day, which is a challenge, but...
Because it always changes, right? Like, they want something for 4 days, and then on the 5th day, they're like, I'm burnt out of this.
They're like, I don't want it. You're like, all right. But we try to make their lunches and stuff at night, which makes the morning a little easier because all I got to do is throw their ice, bags in there. And,
right.
So, at least we're not alone here. We've got a guard dog.
Hey, it's gonna be okay.
Anyway. So I think, the night before prepares you for the morning. Have you guys noticed that you start going to bed a little earlier with school?
Yes, my kids. So being homeschooled for the past 2 years, their schedule was a little bit messed up. They would go to sleep at 11. And I would be ready to go to bed at 10 because I was getting up early. And I'm a big believer in your circadian rhythm, so I started grounding and getting morning sunlight, and I started making sure that I get outside early, like as soon as I wake up. But yeah, so I'm a big believer in circadian rhythm, and as soon as you wake up, letting your body know it's time to roll. Otherwise, like, sometimes you think about it, like, think about when you were younger and you got up when you were ready to get out of bed. Yeah. Like, there was a time where you woke up, and you were like wide awake, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's 7 o'clock, I'm not waking up. So then you went back to sleep, and next thing you know, it's 9:30 and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Your body was ready to roll, and you got into a whole new rhythm of sleep, and now your whole day is messed up. Your circadian rhythm starts the second that you wake up, but to our point, you have to go to bed and get a good amount of sleep. People neglect sleep, and that really messes up their next morning. So the biggest change in our routine has been our nighttime routine, getting our kids ready for bed at 8:30 and in bed, kissed, loved, prayed for, tucked in, and in bed by 9 o'clock. So they're able to get a good amount of sleep, to get the right amount of sleep for their bodies. And then when they wake up, they wake right up.
Yeah.
We go outside as a family, we ground, even though it's pitch black at night, we look at the stars. The other morning there was a meteor shower.
Wow.
We're out there grounding and seeing meteors just flying by. It was beautiful. It was amazing. And that's another experience that we were able to have.
You guys are so awesome that you do those things as a family. I love it.
We're crunchy as they say.
Granola.
Yeah.
Granola.
We're granola.
No, that's great. I mean, I think sleep, again, part of that going back to school routine, sleep is super important, man.
It is.
People neglect sleep. And the other thing that people neglect is proper hydration.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that for me personally, I try to drink 120 ounces of water a day. So I drink 10 to 12 of these cups full of 10-ounce waters. But every morning we make the kids, before they do anything else, 8 ounces of water.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? And just start getting them in the routine of like, we got to hydrate because, we're back to school. We've got more activities.
Right.
We're not always at home. We're not by waters. We're not by water fountains. And lack of water and lack of hydration can cause, from what I've read and researched, right, it can cause kids to not learn as well.
For sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And
cognitively, we have to be hydrated. Our brain
we need that water.
Needs hydration.
And so that's one of the things that even before breakfast, right? And I'd rather them drink water rather than eat breakfast.
Yeah, for sure.
That water is really important. is part of that routine, that good routine, and then to your point, that good sleep, right? Like getting them on a consistent sleep schedule. That 9 o'clock or 8:30 they're ready. 9 o'clock they're in bed. You know, we've said our prayers with them. We send them to bed, and then they're ready to get up in the morning at 6 or 6:30.
And they've got energy. Like the cool thing is about that, when you get good sleep and you get up and your body starts getting reset with the new circadian rhythm of, hey, it's time to wake up.
Yeah.
They wake up, they get dressed, they're not groggy. Even Wyatt, my little 3-year-old, he's like ready to put on his outfit for school, ready to go. And I will tell you this, a part of our morning routine that so many of these of our viewers are probably not going to appreciate is I don't make my kids drink it, but I make my kids a special coffee in the morning. Not lately. This is a part of our new routine. Wyatt's been asking for it. It's literally like a half an ounce of coffee, and it's Laird Hamilton's mushroom coffee. So it's got a chaga, lion's mane, different mushrooms. So it's like almost no coffee. I put a raw egg yolk in there,
Oh my
butter,
gosh.
a scoop of collagen, and then raw milk. And it's like a milkshake full of protein. I did the math on it. It's like 12 grams of protein, and they're getting that usually every morning. And it's been cool. They found out that I put raw egg yolk in there, and my oldest daughter does not like that at all. But that's been a part of why I'd asked for it this morning. So like this morning, I made him one special little coffee, and he drank it all. So my 3-year-old had 12 grams of protein to start his day, a raw egg yolk giving him choline, which is going to help cognitive function. Not only that, but just every part of it is like a super smoothie, and they crave it, which is super cool.
We might have to try that one day on the show.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll make it for you.
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds disgusting,
It's so good.
but
It's delicious.
I'm willing to try it.
The only part that's disgusting is that I use one of those little whisker things that like blends it all up.
Yeah.
And the raw egg yolk, because there's that little sack that holds the yolk together.
Turns into foam.
No, it does. The coffee is great, but that little whisker thing like catches all that, and it's like a gel, and you got to peel it out of there. So the whisker pulls out the gross
Yeah.
part. The
I don't
coffee
know-
itself is delicious.
I don't know if the raw egg grosses me out more or the raw milk.
The raw milk it's actually goat's milk, so it's not that bad.
I'm not a big milk person.
You don't have to do milk. We can do it without it.
Well, maybe we'll try
Well, my
it.
kids like it. They like the color of it when I put with the cream milk in there.
Yeah,
It turns
yeah.
turns it into that nice little milkshake looking drink. But yeah, that's part of the new morning routine is trying to get the kids up earlier, get them hydrated, get them with some protein, but also with the minerals and the nutrients that their bodies are craving throughout the day. And like
Yeah.
you said, in school, it's hard for them they don't have access to all the foods that give their body the nutrients that they need, so they can be at peak performance, so that they can learn as much as possible,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
also not break down, And
Yeah.
and we'll wrap this episode up, but a couple to recap before we break and wrap this episode up. I do want to say, man, so we talked about morning routines, new routines, honoring, loving, and communicating with our kids, honoring, loving, and communicating with our spouses, getting our nighttime routines and our sleep right so that our morning routines cannot suffer,
Yeah.
and just being intentional and being mindful of the people that we care about in this world.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the main message today was those routines that we talked about, because everybody's got new routines, new challenges that they got to face right now. There's no more. It's not summer, and they're off playing baseball tournaments every weekend.
Right.
It's a different rhythm right now, but it's a good one. What I'd love to hear. Other people's comments on what their rhythm is and what their routines are with their kids in the morning. Maybe we can learn something from that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the audience might even be able to learn something from that.
I would love that. So if you're watching this and you have a morning routine that you feel is just spot on, and you have kids, or if you don't have kids, post that in the comments below so we can learn from you, and the other people in the comments can learn from you as well.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's how we all get better, right? Is we all, when I played baseball, and I'll end it on this, but when I played baseball, you'd have multiple different hitting coaches. And every hitting coach has a different approach. I'm not saying their approaches are right or wrong, but I can listen to each hitting coach and pull out one little piece that might fit into my routine or the way that I hit.
Strong.
And so it's the same thing here. Somebody may say something out there that we can use to leverage and make our lives better, make ourselves better.
Absolutely.
So we welcome all those thoughts.
Absolutely. I love that, man. That was a perfect analogy to end this episode on. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please post any questions, comments, or your morning routine in the comments below. If you like this, please hit that like button, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.
Oh my gosh, I felt wrong. I just felt wrong. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I normally end with a see you on the next episode, God bless. There we go. That felt better.
There you go.
Good job, buddy.
That was awesome.